Okay, let's see if I remember how to do this stuff. Make sure I got my speakers off over here. There's probably a significant lag because of the nature of the internet and everybody's home. So I'll give it a second and you guys can tell me if this is working. Okay, let's see. Microphone's good. I can turn that program off. Looks like we got 3 viewers. Maybe? Apologies for the background noise. Hey, JD. Working good? That's good to hear. Hey, Caleb. How is Dubai? Bunch of people had suggested I do these again, and honestly, we haven't done a live chat, and I think God, that's not quite a year, but it's definitely been a while. And I forgot how to do it. I had to get the microphone to work. Had to download all the updates from Streamlabs. Had to mess with the Canon because I forgot that the adapter card for the Canon shows the viewfinder. And the only way to do that is to do a few steps on the Canon. And then, of course, because it replicates what the Canon sees, you would see a little crosshair on my face where it's doing autofocus. So I have to take it out of autofocus, go to manual focus, which requires me to put the Stormtrooper helmet in the chair, manually focus it, and voila. There you go. Qatar. Okay, sorry. Only 4 viewers. What can you say? I don't have the following like I used to have. But then again, a lot of the viewers, and this is not me just trying to make myself feel better, but I want to say a lot of the viewers we had in the past were from different time zones too. So, hey, if it works, great. If not, that's okay too. Let me Unfortunately, the beer fund is empty, so we're doing the, what have we got? Orange Vanilla Coke. So, there we go. So, like many of you, oh wow, that does have a interesting little taste. So, yeah, happy chat day. So, like a majority of people, I'm home. I had done some traveling with my girlfriend. We went to California, thus the Palm Springs Air Museum hat. If you're curious why I'm always wearing the hat, it's because I'm bald and it's very reflective in here. So, for your benefit, I'm wearing the hat. Spain. God, Spain's been pretty hard hit. Stay healthy over there. Wow. So, yeah, I was just going to say, what part of Spain? So, yeah, so basically came back from the travels, and on the 12th, I was told to go home and lay low, self-quarantine, because I had been to California, and the flight had stopped over in areas with infections. So, since everybody is in red alert on this, I've been sent home, been doing as much work as I can from remote, and fortunately that's been quite a bit. And as you can hear in the background over here, there is printing going on, so I apologize. Thanks to this lovely high-def microphone, you're able to hear all of the retractions, and you're also hearing it's doing a vertical drop at every layer. I'm watching myself on the YouTube feed and on over here too, so that's probably, I gotta stop doing that. Again, I'm relearning how to do all of this. Not sure how long this chat's gonna go tonight. Just depends on you guys, what you guys want to talk about. Watching the buffer very closely. Haven't used the software in quite some time. Oh, and of course, just to have a little bit of fun, we still have the Caleb Powell Logitech 920, or 922 rather, camera. Because we were always out of focus, and thanks to his generous donations, we bought this lovely high-def webcam, which for whatever reason just has a real tough time with contrast. So there we go. Back to me. Yeah, my significant other works at the Jackson lab, and they're doing a lot of work doing COVID testing. So that's been quite something. What am I printing? Well, I happen to have some lime green filament kicking around. So I figured, why not have one more? So, oops, see if I can't drop that. Maybe the other camera can pick that up a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe, we'll see. All right, let's kick it over to the other camera and dun dun dun. Oops, maybe. I gotta move him up. Oh, looks like my logo is in the way. Well, hello, Baby Yoda. And if you're curious, that is compliments of Project 842. So yeah, as you can see in the background, there is it's a neat green. It's an Ultimaker green, actually. And I don't have a lot of it left, so I thought, hey, let me use that up, see if I can do one more Baby Yoda head. I like that color. It looks really good. This one's probably going to wind up being sacrificed. I wish to get hold of some Smooth On and see if I can't make a mold with that, and see if I can't make a casting in silicone rubber. I don't know if I can do anything as good as what Grant and Mahara has done, but it'd be really fun to see once I stick the ears on them if I can do any kind of cool mold with that. But so that's what's cooking. The FT6. The FT6 is doing okay. I managed to tear the PEI sheet on the bed. I have one of the spring steel PEI beds that I was able to get through. Is it BD, 3D? I can't remember his name off the top of my head. The FT6 suffers from a couple of slight issues. I think it's the wiring is giving me some fits when it is doing its G29, when it's going around the bed and doing the probing for the mesh bed leveling. Sometimes halfway through there, it will misread and it will take a half a step instead of the next step, which it seems to lose track where it is, and then it goes crashing to the end, and it's basically just a disaster. There have been many times where it's worked perfectly fine, but again, it's always those times where you think it's going to be no problem where it does this. The other issue is the extruders that come with this printer, plus you have like a meter of Bowden tube. I don't like that. We're going to go with a direct drive. And as a matter of fact, that's why we have the Hemera out here. TK Ward has come out with an aluminum bed mount. It's a nice tab up top here for the cable chain. So I had been looking this over tonight thinking, how motivated do I feel tonight at getting this set up? So that was on my radar for doing today or tomorrow. So the FT6, I haven't quite given up on it yet. It still has the MKS board. Everyone else is using SKR. You know, it's a 32-bit board. Maybe it's the way my feed is, but I see a lot of people having difficulties with the SKR boards. Maybe it's because I see more of the problems than the successes. Rarely do people post, when it's working right? We only see the complaints. But I've seen a fair amount of people that have had trouble configuring those boards, getting Merlin 2.0 and the 32-bit all working. Oh yeah, you don't want a warp bed. Caleb, I'm sorry, let me scroll through, make sure. Dun, dun, dun. You had asked the support. Actually, I can, thanks to the magic of my setup here, let me fire up Simplify 3D, and I will show you exactly how I have my Baby Yoda set to print. All right, actually, it loaded right up. Okay, so let me go to the other screen here. Okay, there's Baby Yoda for the Ultimaker. And first thing you have to do, you got to make sure to hit Control L and make sure this guy is flush with the bottom. Let me remove the supports. This way we're not cheating here and you see what I see. Okay, so like I said, you hit Control L and you click this to make sure that this first surface is completely flat. Now it's very easy with this model, which by the way, if you go to Project 842, it's a Facebook group. You can click on the Dropbox and download these files. There's no money or what have you. If you wish to contribute to the designer, you can do so. I'll probably do so on payday. But it's very easy to click. There's a few different spots on here where it's not perfectly flat. That happened to me on one of my first attempts. I kept noticing it was missing this big giant spot right here. So for whatever reason, if you click that level to bed right around here, it's not quite flush. Don't know why. Might even be worth dropping the Z a little bit just to make it perfectly flat. So what I did is I want to say it was from build platform only. I set it at 4mm. I don't like the thinner supports. It's really easy for the printer to knock those over. Max overhang 45, that's pretty much default. Generate automatic supports, and there it is. And that right there, the other thing I would suggest to you if you're going to do this, and this is another gotcha that I learned the hard way. I got a trash can full of failed prints under support. The big thing you want to do is you want to make sure your support base layers are set to 2. So otherwise, if you don't have this set to anything, your supports aren't being held on by much more than that little zigzag or whatever you're using. So, and just to give you an idea what this is going to take to print, I have the print speed set to 51mm a second. And we're just waiting for the magic results. So right here it says about 13 hours, and that seems about accurate. It seems to be a little bit on the low side, but I want to say I started mine at about 9 o'clock. So yeah, so we're getting there. So let me kick out of that. Hello, Brian. So are there any questions on printing the Baby Yoda with minimal support? And actually, and like I said, as you can see, it worked out quite well. What's interesting is when you look at this skull, and because I use this composite silk filament, you can probably see a little bit of the reflection even from the Canon camera, and I can actually, let's see if the webcam wants to play nice. There's a lot of interesting little artifacts it picks up. It's probably going to struggle with the focus here a little bit. The face looks pretty good. Yeah, the tool chest is in focus. Center back in. I think it's time to invest in another DSLR camera for camera number 2. And we'll get out of the league of web cameras. Alright, I'm going to leave him there. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. If you're going to... I want to say we're up to 7, but no big deal. So that's the secret of Baby Yoda. The FT6, as I mentioned, those extruders... for whatever reason, on the FT6, you had asked, and I think I gave a complete answer. Just keep on jamming, and those Bowden tubes are just there's just too much. Not to mention, you're dealing with a huge bed, and you're dealing with a meter of 2 Bowden tubes because you have a 2-into-1 nozzle. Surprisingly, that hasn't clogged on me, and the prints I was getting on it were really, really quite good. The biggest challenge with the FT6, in my humble opinion, is getting that smooth movement and getting the bed very level. I see people doing things with pieces of glass and some other stuff. I went with the thinnest thing I could find, which was that spring steel bed with the PEI coating. So that's worked really well. Baby stepping. Because I was new to the world of BL touches and Easy ABL for the last year and a half, it's interesting because you're so used to on certain printers, if you want a baby step, you're never sure if you go negative or positive the way they're set up. So that can be fun. Hey Z1, there's someone we haven't seen in a long time. I want to say you gave me a lot of tips and ideas when I was building that thing. I have seen a lot of people indicate that the FT6, that 2-into-1 nozzle, I've seen heat creep. I've seen where the guys were unable to keep the Bowden tubes plugged into it. I've seen some guys have had to either hot glue or do some sort of less than perfect solution. So I think if I was going to get another one, I would definitely do the no extruder route, just don't need it. And again, as I mentioned a few minutes earlier, I don't have any printers with 32-bit controllers. There's a few guys that are active on that group, and they have spoken very highly about the Duet Wi-Fi. And the Duet Wi-Fi, of course, doesn't use Marlin. That's a whole different creature altogether. So I am very interested in trying that out because I know they use Duet Wi-Fis on very large printers. For example, like the Modix 60 and the Modix 120, their new version uses them. So it's something I'm definitely very keen to learn about. And of course, as you guys have seen in some of my videos, now that I work in the world of 3D printing, I get to work on the world's largest 3D printer. That video has a tremendous amount of views and comments. That's been fun. Unfortunately, due to the nature of our work right now, we're shut down. The lab is shut down until, gosh, maybe at our earliest, April 7th, when they're going to talk about maybe letting us back in. But we have all kinds of work queued up to do on the big Ingersoll printer. That thing's really a beast. I've been looking forward to do some videos showing you guys what that thing's capable of. Yes, JDC, you're exactly correct. Yep, as a matter of fact, the Unified Firmware does have a beautiful graphic that will tell you which way is up and which way is down. You're exactly right. Unfortunately, I'm using just the regular Marlin, so only Marlin gives you is that Z readout. And for example, I have learned, as you guys know, my FT5 has been a nightmare. But lately, the FT5 has printed this. I mean, for the last couple of months, the FT5 has been my go-to printer. It has been printing, hang on. I don't want it to hear you. You know how these things work. So that thing has a Titan Arrow, just like my CR10S does. And that thing has been just a true workhorse. And I think the big secret is because that bed has a dip in the middle, and I have tried shimming it. I have tried bigger springs, more powerful springs. But what I did is it has Marlin 1.18, and what I did is I enabled baby stepping on it. So I think you have up to 3 millimeters of play in that version of Marlin with the baby stepping. I'd have to look it up again. But what I do is, generally with all my prints, I do a skirt 10 millimeters away from the print, assuming I have that much room in the build plate based on the print. But what I'll do is I'll watch real closely how it's going on and how it's touching the next layer. And I usually do 4 passes. And ever since I enabled the baby stepping on that, and I don't have a BL touch on the thing, I don't have an easy ABL, it's still outside of the hot end, largely a stock FT5. And I cranked it up to like 2.5, and it's working great. You know, I hear a lot of guys say that, and fortunately, knock on wood, I have not had the broken wire issue. I've thought about going Ethernet, using those breakout boards, but when I received my FT6, I had a bad PCB, and then the Cat6 cable he sent me was defective, so I had to buy another Cat6 cable. So God bless those guys that can get those PCBs where they go Ethernet to whatever. I know it saves a lot of wires, but I'm really a fan of direct wiring. The FT5 is using the stock silicone wires, and so far, knock on wood, they've been good. Now, I haven't been popping open the cable chains to go check, but I'd say that printer probably has 700 or 800 hours of prints on it, and the biggest thing I'm having a problem with is I can't remember the name of the various attachments, not the lead screws, but the guide rods. You have these little things that attach to the top, and they have shaken themselves loose. So I don't remember what they were called. But anyway, as you know, if you have an FT5, and you've probably seen it shake, rattle, and roll, and it certainly does that. So one thing I need to remind myself to do, actually, sewing machine oil is sitting on top of the printer, so the next time I do a print, it's time to clean those rails and see if we can't maybe make that thing run a little bit smoother. But again, so far, I'm more surprised than anyone else because I had a love-hate relationship with that. I enjoyed the build, I hated the wiring, and not long after getting it going, there were so many people building these at the same time. There was a lot of great support from other people. Shane something, can't remember his name. He had his channel there. 5,000. That's impressive. The best thing I did was I put that MOSFET on there. I'm convinced adding the MOSFET has saved the board, because I can't tell you, and you probably recall as well too, how many guys were trying to heat that bed with the onboard, heater power, source on the MKS, and it just wasn't enough. So I took Shane's advice on that. What else did I do to it? I also, which axis am I talking here? I think it was the Y-axis. Replaced those cheap they're not really even, I want to say I put actual pulleys on there and got rid of the make-believe couple washers. I don't know what it was. I can't even think of it. But anyway, yeah, so the 6, I've been tempted to get rid of that crossbar in the front because it's such a pain in the ass where it is. But as it is, the thing is shaking itself all over the place. I'm getting great prints. I've done I got the rubber feet. I've got dampeners on. I don't dare do anything else to it. Certain printers, you have this fight. Like today, for example, I've had on my desk all day, I have had the E3D V6, the 12 volt kit. I had my BMG, and I want to say from Printed Solid, one of the lightweight motors. And I spent a great deal of time printing out, what did I do with it? I think I got them sitting here. So I printed out these beautiful mounts and fancy duct work and what have you that I wanted to use. So on my mini factory, because Thingiverse is useless now, you can't, half the time I search, it doesn't go anywhere. But I found this great looking mount, and the first issue I noticed was that he built this for the Ender 3, 4, 5. I've lost track of which. And they keep on saying that it's compatible with all the Creality printers, and that hasn't been the case. When you remove the CR10 hot end, you have the 2 knobs back there, and his design, they're too small. So I thought maybe I can drill it out. And then I encountered where there's the top where the carriage bolts on. I thought, well, maybe this fits on top. No. So this became one of those issues where you think you find a solution for your printer, you print the pieces out, and then you quickly discover in the comment section what a red hot mess this upgrade is. So I quickly put it away. Well, we thought that with my FT6, mine has not had any issues of being out of square. I don't know if you caught my comment earlier. The biggest issue with my FT6 has been 2 things. The extruders up top suck. I got to get rid of those. I got to go direct drive, and that's why I bought the Hemera. And from TK Ward, I bought the aluminum bracket mount. So that takes care of the hot end issues. The other thing I've had an issue with, and I don't know if it's the wiring for my motors or I don't know if it's the wiring for my BL Touch, but when it does its probing on G29, 90% of the time it goes through just fine. The print commences and off we go. But every now and then, midway through its probing, it will skip a step, and it's like it loses track where it is, and then it crashes into the opposite side of the bed, wherever it is, because it doesn't know where it is. And then it makes that banging, grinding sound that just makes you absolutely terrified. So I'm not sure what's going on there as far as the wiring goes. I'm hoping it's not the PCBs again. I'm hoping it's not the Ethernet cable. I'm hoping it's something as stupid that maybe the BL Touch wire is too long. Maybe it's not making perfect contact. They are connected, obviously, because 90% of the time they work. They're hot glued together. JDC, yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I got the same thing. So what I'm going to do, and this, first of all, I know with all the upgrade stuff out there, we should just find something else and give it a go. But every now and then you get to a point, and maybe this is me becoming an older adult, you begin to tell yourself, what is my time worth? Is it worth me spending 20 hours printing and then another 4 hours trying to figure out what the author intended, and then another 4 hours trying to get the firmware uploaded. What is your time worth? And Bondtech makes pretty much a bolt-on solution for the BMG E3D V6. It costs $260. It's even pre-wired and everything. They've even got the firmware made for you. All you do is download it and flash it. And if you want to add the BL Touch, they've got this mount on the side there for you. You print the mount, and they even have the firmware with the BL Touch included there. So I think that's probably going to be what I do. And I just reached a point with a couple of these upgrades where some of them are just a hill too tall to climb. The TiVo Tornado I haven't given up on. The ironic thing with the TiVo Tornado is I think I have 10 hours of printing on it, and I've devoted a bunch of time, or I've talked about a bunch of times, wanting to do upgrades to it. But I think what I'm going to do with that, I did swap out the MKS board. It is running, I think, 22.8 drivers. The extruder, I think, is LV8729. I think one of you guys recommended this. And what's ironic is the fans are so loud in that control box that all the gains I made for silent stepper motors has been completely washed away by the control box fans. And I've looked everywhere to find quiet fans. And the Noctua, Noctua? Yeah, Noctua. They're okay, but they don't always have the airflow you're looking for, especially inside a control box. So, that said, I think what I'm going to do is, since I've had such... Can't talk tonight. Time for more soda. If you're tired of seeing this beverage and feel I should have a beer, the tip jar is available. Sorry, couldn't resist. So, yes, the CR10S... If it loads, let me see if it will load. I will show you what I have on my other one. That'd be a great video. I should do a video on that. Let's see if Thingiverse wants to load. Let's play a little... Who wants to wager on Thingiverse loading for me? Okay, and... let's see, and... is it gonna load? Is it gonna load? I have some results, but not really what I'm looking for. Maybe, maybe Titan Evolve? Let's go here. So it's bringing this up. Yeah, 50-50. I've tried his bullseye and it was okay. Maybe it's Aero Evolve. It is one of his. I hope he didn't take it down. I mean, fortunately, I printed it. Well, let's look under his name. There it is. Okay. This is what I have on mine. And I am using an Easy ABL, so I do have that big fat adapter right there. And this looks like it's a real beast and a monster to put together, and it is. It is absolutely awkward to get this thing put together because, first of all, you got to try to get this big giant thing to print out okay. You got to get the motor in there, and then you got to fidget around behind here at your fingers, and it's just... I will tell you that this is definitely one of those ones where you want to take a lot of breaks, maybe have a nice foamy beverage available. But what I can tell you is that the one thing I found with my 5015 fan is I had to tune it down because mine is just a jet engine. Oh, you think it's a laptop being slow? I'm sorry. That's laptop. Well, let me find out the task manager here. No, we're only at 40% CPU, so I don't know if that's exactly it. So that is the Titan Evolve, and I've had it for over a year on the CR10S, and if you can get the parts all together and printed, and again, let me go back here. Let me stretch that guy out. It's a challenge to get that to print. Obviously, you want to have, just supports from the ground up. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with supports inside your part cooling duct, and you'll never get them. Yeah, it could just be the internet. Yeah, I mean, I noticed when I started the video, there was a significant amount of lag. From when I started the video to when you guys started to respond was several minutes. I'm hoping my microphone isn't, I have the gain turned up so you can hear me, but you're probably hearing my nose hairs ruffle through every breath. You can hear the printer for sure. So anyway, let's go back to here. So that's what I printed one of those out for the Tornado. I have the 24 volt version of the Titan Aero sitting in a drawer. So I think perhaps tomorrow we will start on that. And I want to say, yeah, I do have another Easy ABL kicking around here. This is one of the lazy ones where you just plug it in. It's not one of the direct wire ones. I'm lazy. I didn't want to do all that. So I'll put that back in the stack of stuff. And I got a bunch of Raspberry Pis. I need to work on those too. Well, I'm sorry if the internet is being wonky for some of you guys. That does kind of suck. So I don't know when we're going back to work. I keep on watching the news, and I keep on trying not to watch the news. The big thing that happened here locally is where I live, here in the state of Maine. The governor has basically said that only essential businesses can be open. So the gym is now closed, and a lot of other, places of that sort. So prepare to gain 15 pounds, everybody. And did I miss any questions in the chat buffer? Yeah, Thingiverse. I don't know what's going on at Thingiverse. They changed the layout. I thought maybe that would help them, but I know earlier today I did a search for FT6, and I kept on getting toy robots and stuff like that. Yeah, hopefully you'll be coming home soon here, buddy. I think your time overseas there with the Air Force is close to being up. So what are you guys working on? Let's see, Z1, you said you got your FT6 working well. I know JDC mentioned he is having good luck with the Hypercube. Now you got that from Ziltech, didn't you? I need to search on YouTube, see some reviews on that. I'd like to know how that's working out for you. Well, Caleb, you're a young guy. You have a metabolism. Once you get past a certain age, it's easy to put them on. Yeah, I can't say I blame you for being anxious to go home, saying be with the wife and the little kiddo. Oh, an AC bed? Yeah, that would heat it up a whole lot quicker, wouldn't it? I think the only printers I have that have AC beds are the FT6 and the TiVo. Oh, Brian, I just had to throw away all my DO stuff because now there's DO version 2. And who wants to have version 1, right? And yeah, it's too bad. I had a lot of fun printing those pieces out. They came out great. Oh, really? Yeah, I'm getting, well, I'm down to my last, I don't know, what have I got? I'm down to my last 15 rolls of filament here, so I'm going to have to call Ziltech and get some more. I'll burn through that at the rate I'm going. Lately, I've been having a lot of fun. Like, for example, these prints, I've been using a lot of the Matte Forge PLA. And print's a little bit hotter. I want to say I print this at 213, but it definitely does a nice job. And all these ducts, I did that with ColorFab Engine because I wanted it to have a little bit higher heat resistance. It is completely out? Oh, good. Yeah, the only thing I haven't done yet is, I know everyone is in love with these resin printers, and honest to God, I don't have a lot of use for printers that have the the bed space of a external battery. I'd like to have I like my larger prints, but boy, I gotta tell you, they've come way down in price. My only concern is that people aren't fully aware of how dangerous these resins are. You can't be touching them. You certainly don't want to inhale them. And then, of course, the other thing that concerns me is, a lot of people probably don't dispose of these materials properly. I mean, we're dealing with hazardous waste. We're talking about, contaminated isopropyl alcohol. And I mean, maybe people are smart. Maybe they're putting it outside to dry, evaporate, and then throw it in the trash. But, it's winter time, and I know where I live, nothing's going to evaporate for a while. Wow. D&D minifig, yeah. Well, actually, some of those resin printers, I mean, for example, if money wasn't a factor, I would certainly be, jumping on top of, say, for example, a Form 2 or a Form 3. I mean, stuff like, very detailed things like, ducts, especially stuff that is going to be sitting near a hot end. And I think the resin, I don't know the transition temp of those resins, but they're certainly higher than PLA or polyester. Or copolyester rather. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, exactly, Z1. That was the other thing too. I'm fascinated because I've been very interested in the Elegoo Mars. Elegoo contacted me a couple months back with their Arduino Uno kit. Said, hey, we'd love to have a new one. Would you be willing to do a video on it? I said, well, I'm happy to accept it, but I can't guarantee you a good or bad result. I'll be honest. And they said, no problem. So, and it's an awesome kit. I mean, I totally wanted to mess with that kit for a week. It was great. I had a great time with it. But they make that Elegoo Mars printer, and I've seen a lot of people comment that the screens are only good for about 100, 200 hours. And it's like, my God, I mean, especially with the resolutions these printers have, they print for a very long time. So I just can't imagine just getting into the groove of learning how to use one of those printers and then having the screen fizzle out on you, and then you have to figure out how to replace that. So I don't, what's the one that I saw the review on about Uncle Jesse? Is the Phenom? I mean, it's like a large resin printer, and it's completely enclosed. And I mean, that thing, that's one of those things that I'd be interested in, but again, my thing is I have mild asthma. Certain things will definitely set my mild asthma off, and I'm not certain, especially in a house with pets that get everywhere, that I want to be messing around with sticky resin and chemicals and stuff like that. Now, if I had a little man cave or an outside shop in the garage that was heated or something like that, that'd be fine. But down here in the house where the cats get into everything, that would definitely be a mess. But like I said, I'm impressed that the price has come down so much on them. I keep wondering what people like Form 2 and the Form Labs rather have up their sleeve. Obviously, they're aimed at professional businesses, so they could care less. That's not their market. Much like Ultimaker makes the Ultimaker 3, Ultimaker S5. They're not going to lower their prices to compete with a CR10. They're on a whole different level altogether. Yeah, the resin is super expensive too. So between the screen life and the cost of materials and the disposing of the materials, and seeing on YouTube these people have ultrasonic chambers and they're putting isopropyl alcohol in them. It's just, oh my God, just the safety. Just, you know, I work in a lab. Safety is huge. And when I see stuff like that, I just, oh my God, guys. But of course, I'm the bad guy. If I comment and mention to them, hey, you have a potential fire hazard right there, as I'm so used to in my videos and other stuff, I totally get flamed. But that's all right, fine, you know. Right? So the one printer, speaking of printers that broke, the one printer that I continue to get angry comments on YouTube about is the G-Tech A10. The G-Tech, as you recall, when it arrived here, was not quite dead on arrival, but it was certainly on life support. Had a bent lead screw. The knob took about 20 turns to move to one level. Just a piece of junk. And we did some live streams. We had some people in the audience that knew quite a bit about them. When I went to G-Tech support and said, hey, this thing arrived kind of dead. Can you help me out? What should I fix? What can I replace? They ignored me. And their Facebook group is the same way. You know, it's all fanboys. If you want to post how much you love your A10, they're going to, yeah, attaboy, woohoo, we like you. But if you comment that, hey, mine was a piece of junk out of the box, nothing works, it's bent, I need new parts, the hate, how dare you? And it was interesting because the comments are like, you know, how dare I complain about a cheap printer? And it's like, well, if I bought a cheap microwave and it couldn't cook popcorn, I'd be pissed. But that's just the world of the fanboys trying to impress the G-Tech people. Look, we got you back. So anyway, we did a lot of repair work on the G-Tech A10, and then a while ago I was testing out some Protopasta filament, and that hot end jammed solid. I mean, it's... And I tried doing a PID auto tune, trying to figure out why it was heating up, but I was watching an octo print and it was arcing all over the place. It couldn't stabilize. I couldn't stabilize the print. So I did a PID auto tune, came up with the proper numbers for it, and it still wouldn't do it. So I just said, that's it. And I don't print a lot of stuff that's small. I mean, with all these printers that are capable of doing it, I really didn't need it. So I sold it to a coworker. I said, tell you what, I paid $180 for this thing. For $100, it's yours. If anything, just part it out. You know, use the extrusions, use this, use the motherboard, whatever. I said, I don't know if this printer is worth fixing, but I suspect I know the problem, but I also know I don't want to waste the time. So he ordered a bunch of parts for it, and he's got it running. And so yay to my coworker, and yay to a free spot on my bench for something else. I really need to have this done with somebody else. I should have someone here on Skype or something with me and say, hey, let's go back and forth. So I told myself I would do this for about an hour. Where am I at now? About 47 minutes in. So what are you guys up to? What are you guys doing for a quarantine? What specific print projects are you working on? Or are you working on your printer? Or what's up? Fill the buffer. What you got? Free spot for a resident, yeah. I'm not against them. I just don't think I have a good location for one. The other option would be to enclose it. And I still have my printed solid enclosure. But it's not the printing I'm concerned about. It's the longevity of the screens. It's dealing with the waste material. Yeah, poor BB-8 over here. I don't know. That frame is aluminum and it's very impressive, but I haven't seen anyone make a drive system that takes advantage of that aluminum frame. There already is, actually. Z1, it's interesting because one of my favorite filaments is the the polyalchemy elixir, and you can't get it. You can't get it anywhere. Printed Solid doesn't have it on their website anymore. If you go to the polyalchemy website, it says due to the shortage, we're unable to make filament. So and it's something we've been concerned about at work because we use, we use filament by the thousands of pounds for that big giant printer, and fortunately we have a fair amount of inventory, but and we can make a lot of our own stuff, but we still need the basic components. Yeah, that enclosure, like I said, the other thing I need to do is the fire safety aspect. I need to get some, what do they call those? Baking soda bombs and some other stuff. I've seen some that have tubing, and they use them in race cars. It's got an inert gas inside of it. It's similar to halon, but won't kill you. What happens is when that is ruptured, that blows out at high PSI, and floods the fire with its suppression. I just want to get real serious about safety down here. For the most part, I don't print unless I'm here. I've got a couple printers I trust, but I also have on the phone, I have the Spaghetti Detective and Octoprint Anywhere. Well, we printed the boat. You may have seen that. Oh, the Von Jet? Yeah, I'm just curious if my printer is big enough to print that. Got all kinds of stuff popping across my phone. Yes, we printed a 25-foot boat, 5,000 pounds. Did that in 74 hours. That was a good time. We also printed it was an enclosure. It was a shelter actually. And we sent that down to Natick. We sent that down to the Army where they're testing it. But yeah, those are the two things that have been in the press. You haven't seen any printer fires in the news in a long time? Well, you never know. But, you also have to remember that, our printers are basically running at the same temperature as a toaster oven. So would you leave a toaster oven running for, 18 hours? Depends on your thought there. I just, being in a laboratory environment, seeing what I've seen, I definitely want to make sure that my equipment is enclosed. I'd like to do some proper ventilation so that they're in enclosures so I can pump out whatever to the outside atmosphere, whatever I can't filter. It is a personal choice. It's the way I like to do it. After working in a lab, reading all the safety data sheets on all these various materials, some are harmless, some the data is inconclusive. So in my case, I definitely want to do two things. I want to enclose them, get them vented, and definitely fire safety. The motor, there is a motor on the boat. There's a Yamaha motor on it. The giant printer, we were doing some test prints. We're still doing some work on that. We were printing wood PLA. We were doing some test extrusions. And of course, being wood PLA, it has the consistency of a big pile of poop. But it smells like a sawmill. It smells really great. Well, that's the thought. Yeah, get a dryer vent style basement window. So one half is the opening for the vent, the other half is a window, and prefer to do that during the spring and summer versus the middle of winter to do that kind of construction work. And then this is a matter of getting the I want to say for a lot of that stuff, I think now dryer vents and dryer piping is no longer plastic tubing. I want to say they use stainless steel or something else piping. So it can be done. Just has to get on the roster to be done. The giant printer, Ingersoll has their own custom slicer. It's a challenge to use. Can't say too much about it because it's a A lot of it's trade secret stuff, and I'm not sure how much we're allowed to talk about it, but it's, hey, take care, Brian. It's definitely not as easy as Simplify 3D, but they do have, suffice to say, they do have their own slicer. Obviously, when you're printing something that has a bead that's, you know, an inch and a half thick, or wide rather, stuff like overhangs and infill is something we're still trying to figure out how we're going to do. The other thing that's interesting with printers that size is some of them have rollers, so that as they go over, it kind of flattens out the layer. But the biggest thing is when you're putting out that much plastic, the biggest thing you're watching is the temperature. Obviously, to put a layer on top of a layer, you need to be within a certain zone of temperature. If you're putting your next layer on top of a molten layer, it's going to sag. So the biggest thing that I'm learning is our travel speeds, and depending on the size of our prints, how fast we're going. It's amazing how long the temperatures stay hot in those thick materials. we had talked about doing a giant benchy, but yeah, we looked at the model and we thought, no, we had something better in mind. So we went for an actual boat that can actually be on the water. The problem with the benchy is you have a lot of overhangs, and printers that print that thick, not so sure how good that's going to work. But we definitely have some interesting things in queue, things that we're going to be working on with our various sponsors. Some I can talk about, some I can't. But it is quite something to... It's one thing to be playing with these printers over here, and it's one thing when you get to a giant printer that looks like something on a Tron that can kill you in a heartbeat. So a printer like that does not have a BL Touch. It doesn't have a proc sensor. You have to get out there and use like a little metal shim, and you have to home it manually, just like the old days. The bed surface is interesting. You're dealing with a vacuum and an ABS sheet and a vacuum. Well, a life-size bench should be one thing, or an actual big boat would be another one too. But yeah. Well, remember the other thing with this machine, and that hasn't been, I don't think the press has really dove down into that. That machine, it has the head that does the 3D printing. And then what we do is we do a command, and what it does is it goes to the corner and it physically unloads the print head. And then we go there, we unhook the cables and vacuum tubes for the filament feed. And what it can do is it can then connect to a machine head, and it looks like the turret from a B-17 bomber. I mean, it sticks out there. And that's what the machine head does. So what you have is a printer that can make these enormous prints. And granted, some of them look a little blobby because of the size of the bead. But then you take this machine and you CNC with the various size bits, what have you, to smooth it out and to fine-tune your print from there. So this is quite something. So we could essentially have taken that boat and put the end mill on there and made for some really fine, smooth edges. I mean, it would have taken quite some time, but the machine is quite capable, and frankly, we're still learning how to use it all. Because, of course, my background is 3D printing, and when you start getting into the world of the machine head, you're dealing with 5-axis plus CNC, and yeah, we definitely have some specialized minds that can they handle all that. All right, I'm going to get ready to button this up. If you guys have any comments or questions or whatever, throw them on out, because otherwise, I'm going to call it a night. Maybe I'll see what the guys are doing. Maybe we'll do a little bit of flying in DCS. Haven't had one of these in a long time. Oh, let's see how Baby Yoda's doing. Oh, he's so good. All right, guys. Seeing the chat buffer is quiet. This was fun. Should do it again soon. Maybe we'll do it again in a couple days. And I'm going to wish you guys a good night. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay healthy. Wash your hands.